Hey, folks, welcome back to the Rugby Ascendant segment here on Chris Wyatt Africa and the Rugby Ascendant channel. My guest today, and I'm going to mess up his name. I already got the Samoan / Tongan surname wrong. So, Alex, do you pronounce it Maughan? Is that how it's pronounced, or
It's Maughan, so
Maughan?
think
Okay,
Jamaican.
okay. Oh, Maughan. Or well, okay. There's a town in Botswana called Maughan, so I'll think of that. Alex Maughan. Okay, Alex Maughan is with me today, a starting prop for Rugby Atlanta. Alex, how's it going?
Going pretty good. It's hopefully the last 2 weeks of the season, so we're doing pretty good so far.
Well, one way or another, it's definitely the last 2 weeks of the season. Whether it's the last 2 weeks for you
Exactly.
guys or for Rooney will be the question. Let's hope that you guys get past this weekend. Of course, what we're referring to is the conference final for the Eastern Conference, first ever conference final, because in season 4, we've got this going on now, Eastern and Western conferences. And Rugby ATL finished top of the log, despite dropping the last game of the season to the New England Free Jacks 22-19. And so Alex and Rugby Atlanta will be facing Rugby United New York for a home game at Lupo Field there on the campus of Life University this weekend. Speaking of Life, Alex, I think that you went to Life, did you not?
I did. Started there in 2014, graduated there in 2018. Um, got to spend some very pleasurable years there. Watched the program grow, and of course, collected some silverware along the way. So that's always fun for the rugby experience and something to tell the kids about down the line. So
Absolutely. And Life is now, I've never seen Life 15 sides play, but I have seen the sevens at the Collegiate Rugby Championship. Now, did you play sevens or just 15s?
no, when people ask why I don't play sevens, I politely tell them that I get paid to run through people, not around them. So not really the body type I need for sevens.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, occasionally you get some guys that are pretty bulky that actually go out and play
Mhm.
sevens. I mean, it's crazy, but it's a track meet. I mean, it's very different than 15. Same
Exactly.
same size
Exactly.
pitch and less than half the guys on the pitch. So if you get
Mm,
burned, it's all over. I mean, look at Perry
right.
Baker and Carlin
Yeah.
Isles.
Exactly.
They're just gone. All right. So but you played there at Life, which has been kind of one
Mm,
of the pipelines for Rugby ATL. Never mind the fact that you play on the same field as Life University, but a lot of your teammates also played at Life, and then a fair number of them come from South Africa. That's another pipeline.
right.
And for some strange reason, there's a pipeline from the Colorado Raptors. Although that'll tail off
Yeah.
now that they're not in the league anymore. So what was it like there playing at Life? Obviously, you won a few things. Was it a great experience or what?
Oh, of course. It's probably as close to a professional environment that you could get, especially at the collegiate level. It's you wake up 6 a.m. morning, any particular morning, you have lifts straight to class straight to practice, do your homework, rinse and repeat. So it's very much you're dialed in, basically all the time. And so rugby is obviously, besides school and graduating and whatnot, rugby is your job. So, um, and you come in with that mindset, and the coaches are very quick to remind you if you fall off the pace a little bit. But that's also what helps breed um, good rugby players as well. Is that constant pressure, also that competition that comes in because with life being quote unquote a powerhouse in USA Rugby collegiately, you have the best rugby players wanting to come there. So it's if you don't perform one week, you could be on the bench the next, or even off the roster completely. So, um, and that was kind of the environment there. And then also having Scott Lawrence as the head coach for the first, more or less up until my junior year. He brings that attention to detail that you get towards the national team and stuff like that, to where, hey, if you miss a tackle, it's that very well could be a try, and that try could lose us the game. So um, that's what Scott brought to the table, and that's it definitely impacts you as a college player, and someone who's growing into becoming an adult. You see how much attention to detail matters, and I think further on down the line, once rugby ends and everybody goes along their merry way, that'll probably help you professionally as well. So
Well, you make a couple of good points there. Number one, Coach Scott Lawrence and attention to detail. That's something that definitely is associated with that man. He definitely is focused on detail. And then also, if you miss a tackle, it could be a try. I mean, the difference in last weekend's game, this past Sunday's, was clearly that backbreaker at the end of the first half when ATL was driving and then lost the ball, and just the Free Jacks brought all the way back down and got a try. That was a backbreaker. That was it really comes home to roost, that philosophy when you see something like that on the pitch.
Yeah, it does. And the nice little earful that the coaches give you / other teammates and stuff like that give you, it's a humbling experience, but it also gives you a little gently reminder to either put up or shut up, basically.
Now, do you have a favorite position? I mean, either hooker or tight head prop, or is one that you favor, or are you just happy to be on the pitch?
Every season seems to change. It's this year, it's especially my role, it seems like, is to help kind of fill in when needed. So that was a good thing about it. Life is working with Blake Bradford, our forwards coach. He normally I played tight head prop, but he also made sure that if you played one position in the front row, you could play any position. So the good thing for me is that me being able to play all three positions helps me, gives me a great chance to, one, get on the roster, but then two, also be in the starting spot. So this year it's been much a coin flip sometimes on where I'll play, but that's obviously to a strategic point, and that's up to the coaches. So it's really just letting yourself be along for the ride and say, hey, you know what, I'm on the field, so I can't really complain too much.
Now, a lot of your teammates coming from places not accustomed to the humidity and the heat in the summertime, the Deep South, with the Major League Rugby season starting several weeks later because of the adjustment for the pandemic. We've definitely seen this adjustment for the South Africans. Most of them, not all, one of them's from a part of the country is tropical, but most of them, it's been a big adjustment for them. Also, Stephen Brett is a coach. It's been an adjustment for him. But you're from Charlotte, North Carolina, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's probably not been much of an adjustment for you.
You'd be surprised. The humidity is about the same, but you add about 5 or 6 degrees, and it's that makes all the difference. I like to compare Georgia, and especially where we play at Life. Not a lot of people know this, but the actual field was built on a swamp. Right, so it's even more muggy than the air around it, and then plus when it rains, it floods basically. But that's a completely different story. But I like to describe it to people who aren't used to it as you're literally drinking the air. That's how thick the air is. It's basically the exact opposite of Denver or Utah or whatnot. The air is literally so thick that your body struggles to separate the moisture and the oxygen. So,
well, I've been on the pitch with you guys down there, and I concur. But I have to say this: I didn't have to try to play on the game, so it would have been a lot harder expending energy trying to suck that oxygen out.
Right. And the I will say the saving grace is the majority of our home games have been at nighttime. But especially Toronto sharing our facilities with us and whatnot, when that sun is out and you're playing on the turf and it's just as humid at night, it's quite suffocating. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I get that, and I honestly, unfortunately, one of the big things we see in Major League Rugby is that most of the teams are playing on, or a lot of teams are playing on artificial turf or AstroTurf, or the equivalent. It's I've never been a fan of that. I played football and played rugby on artificial turf, and aside from the turf burns and the carpet burns, it's not the same as hitting the solid ground.
Right. Yeah. And the good thing is here at Atlanta is the coaching staff recognize that, as well as the management staff, and we've made it a point, they have made it a point, as the seasons progress, to us being able to have an opportunity to train on grass, because to your point, with turf burns and the whole given the surface and turf and whatnot, it's completely different than grass, and it really wears and tears on the joints. So thankfully we've been able to have the people to go out and find those grass fields, and unfortunately they're much fewer and far between now. But thankfully we've been able to transition to practicing on grass more than probably most teams have, which I think is a testament to us having phenomenal depth going into the playoffs. Not a whole lot of injuries going on. Everybody's back and healthy. So, and at the end of the day, it's all about who has the healthiest roster.
Absolutely. And, the other thing too is that as a front rower, not really an issue for you, but those back rowers kicking on artificial turf, it's a completely different game. That ball does things it doesn't do on natural turf.
Yeah, exactly. It can roll 30 yards or it can bounce 20 yards in the air. So take your pick.
Yeah. And you're expecting it to roll down the field and suddenly somebody in the wing just runs underneath it, catches on the fly, and you got to try. Exactly. Very different. Now the humidity thing, your Major League Rugby career didn't start with Rugby ATL. Didn't you start with NOLA? Did you actually play down there, or did you just sign with them?
Well, no. So funny enough, during the 2018 season, 18, I had actually signed with Atlanta, and then because Atlanta wasn't playing any games because we were entering into the next year, they put me on loan to New Orleans. So I got to spend the last 4 games of the season there with them. Obviously a nice little, not training wheels, but get to actually fully experience what kind of the MLR was like in terms of not only the playing experience, but also traveling, and then also how players conduct themselves day in and day out in terms of recovery, nutrition, working out, film review, X, Y, and Z. Because obviously it's a pretty big step up from the collegiate level up to professional.
Oh, it absolutely is. So you've traveled with the Eagles. I think you went to the tour they had with Romania and Tonga back. So were you an Eagles select? And then is that something you're hoping for, to play for the Eagles? Is that something you aspire to do?
Oh, of course. It's, to always make it back into the Eagle squad is, I'd be lying to you to say if, every person who, doesn't want to represent their nation, in the chosen profession that they love, at the end of the day, it comes down to performance on the field, and, also, if you fit into the strategic plan by the national team coaches. So at the end of the day, if I do get a call, phenomenal. I'll be there with bells on. And if not, it's just a good excuse to keep working harder and always improving.
That's a fantastic philosophy. I've interviewed Gary Gold a number of times, and we talk about this specifically. And I said, "What about Major League Rugby?" And essentially, I mean, not his words verbatim, but essentially, Major League Rugby has given him over a dozen scouting teams now that he can look at all these players from North America, or from the U.S., not North America, from the U.S., and actually see guys rather than have to travel to some remote place to watch guys play in a club or go to university. So
exactly,
gives you a chance to be seen more often. Listen, Alex, this a final question here. This weekend, the conference final, you feeling good about it? Rooney's a tough opponent. You guys ready for it? You prepped?
Third time's the charm, baby. No, of course, and that goes back into Scott and the coaching staff's attention to detail. I can bet all the money that I have that if you ask Scott a random play from any one of Rooney's 16 games, not even including the games they played against us, he could probably tell you, to the minute of what they do, which it kind of, as a player, that kind of it inspires, but it also doesn't let you have any excuses in terms of your own review and preview and stuff like that. So it helps you go that extra mile. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we're gonna, of course, have our game plan. They're gonna have theirs. And then at the end of the day, it's always how everything goes in sports. It's who can execute under pressure.
Well, Alex,
And thankfully, go on.
no, okay. And thankfully, finish it. No, thankfully, what?
I was going to say, thankfully, we'll have, around 3,500 fans cheering us on from there, and the nice humidity from the Georgia heat and stuff going for our way, and then hopefully at the end of the 80 minutes we'll be booking our trip to the final.
Well, it should be raucous. That's going to be a big crowd. You guys went out to Utah. That was a huge crowd out there for the Utah game. It's nice to see the crowd start to show up again after restrictions are lifted a little bit, because it's kind of artificial early in the season with no crowds and only a handful of people.
Right, exactly. And thankfully it's just, I think Joe Marler said it best. It just feels completely different when there's fans in the stands. It brings that little extra oomph to your energy levels and stuff like that, as well as just when we were in Boston last week, just some of the heckling, you can't help but laugh at it. Some people take it seriously. Me, I just have a nice little chuckle under my breath and just keep moving.
Having watched the game, I have to tell you that the field microphones were picking up a lot of the heckling, so I was laughing myself at some of that stuff.
It's phenomenal, and you can't beat that as an athlete, because it just brings that whole environment to it. So
cool beans. All right, listen, Alex Maughan, did I pronounce it correctly?
Correct.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for coming on with us on Rugby Ascent. Appreciate it. Best of luck in the conference final this week, and hopefully Rugby ATL, the Rattlers, will bring it home and then either play Utah or LA. If somehow if you win and Utah wins, I think that's a home game for you guys then. But if LA wins, you're out there.
Hey, I've never actually been to LA, so it is what it is.
Well, with at the risk of offending people from the City of Angels, you ain't missing much, brother. I lived in LA.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thanks a lot. You have a good luck this weekend. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.